I wrecked my unfaithful wife's secret getaway at her hotel by providing room service. Oh, I can't wait, let's start. A bit of background. I am 43 years old, and my significant other is 40 years old. We have been married for 16 years. We have 2 children, a 14-year-old daughter, and our 9-year-old kid. Our marriage was difficult at first, but we persevered and emerged much stronger as a result. We married young, so maturity wasn't fully developed, but we knew we loved each other and could overcome any obstacles to our marriage. I'm still unsure if this was wishful thinking. Anyway, my wife has been the manager of a large advertising company for 3 years, and I have been an engineer for 7 years. Our careers both paid well and provided a decent standard of living for our family. We were a tight-knit family. As parents, we always make sure to be present for our children so that they can make wonderful memories. Regardless of how busy we were, we always made time for our children. Honestly, I consider myself a good father and husband. I made mistakes with my wife from time to time, but I would do everything for her, and learning that she was having a long-term affair rocked me to the core. This gets me to discovery. The wife was acting distant. In fact, the last 2 years preceding this one were the most difficult. She didn't appear to enjoy anything I did. She continued comparing me to her boss, whom I now know, and telling me how he would handle various situations. Can't read her thoughts? Well, her boss can. Do not take the initiative to take her on dates and make her feel special. Well, her employer does it for his wife. Why did I act so? Immature? I'd ask her what she wanted me to do to spice up our romantic lives. Her customary response is, "Don't ask, you should already know and do it." So I did some research, bought some books, and assumed that because I was clueless, someone else must know the answer. Anything I tried was met with either half-hearted approval or bitter disappointment. My wife had never been like this in the years I had known her, so I assumed that my inability to make her happy was something I needed to address. Little did I realize that the entire time, someone else was doing the repairing. We were really close to her boss and his wife. They also have children, and the youngsters adored each other. We brought them to our barbecues, family picnics too, the park, and arcade gaming days. They've come to our house several times, and we've gone to theirs. It's not surprising that we grew close. I would talk to her boss about our marital troubles. He gave me some good advice. I thought he was a great man. Anyway, back to our discovery. I had grown emotionally exhausted of my wife's expectations that I improve myself or the marriage would end. I was taken aback by her attitude because, prior to this, I felt we had a wonderful marriage. So one night, she was laughing and giggling while messaging someone. I was sitting next to her in bed and was interested. When I leaned in to take a look, she fiercely drew away from me. She became enraged immediately and demanded to know what I was doing. I told her I wanted to see what the joke was, but she said it wasn't my business and went to the bathroom. I believe that was the day I realized there was some sort of affair taking place. I did not have any proof, however. I made the mistake of asking her personally the following day. She was indignant and denied all wrongdoing. I didn't have access to her phone, but I desperately needed to know the truth. I asked for her phone, but she refused. Only later in the night did she reluctantly hand me the phone. Almost every text message she sent to particular recipients was removed. I could tell because some exchanges sounded contradictory, while others were completely ludicrous. I returned the phone to her, and we didn't talk about it again until a month later, when I was able to get a friend to check the phone and recover erased messages. My wife had gotten another phone and barely used the one she handed me. Some texts were discovered, and it was only via parts and pieces that I was able to prove that she was having an affair with her boss. I knew if I approached her right away, she'd find a way to avoid it, so I waited. I was a wreck, though. All I could think about was how it would affect the children. The scenario was terrible, and I sobbed in front of my friend. I still didn't want to end the marriage, so 3 days later, I purchased How to Help Your Spouse Heal After an Affair. It's okay to shake your head. I began reading, hoping that if I delivered it to my wife, she would cease the foolishness. I wanted my wife back, and I wanted to save our marriage. I had planned to speak with her on Saturday to straighten things out, but she had informed me they had an emergency at work, and not to wait on her. Of course, I phoned the employer that day to check the narrative she told me, but received no response. They were not open on Saturdays. I tried calling her phone, but there was no answer. She returned home at 2 a.m. On Sunday, showered, and went straight to bed. I questioned why she was late, and she skirted the topic by telling me not to wait for her. I was sick of it. I didn't give her the book one brought. I was in pain, and she didn't care. She witnessed my pain but didn't care. I phoned her boss's wife and asked her if she knew anything. I was desperate for stability, and I still don't regret it. She was as surprised as I was when I found out. She wanted to confront her husband, but I told her he'd probably lie and try to cover it better than my wife had. We met at her house to discuss what was going on, and I handed her the little proof we had. She needed more evidence, so we both agreed to gather evidence on either side, and I began snooping on my wife more, while she did the same with her spouse. It was simple for her to obtain undeniable proof. Her husband was so arrogant that he didn't even erase the text between him and my wife on his phone, and the small text I discovered earlier suddenly made sense, and we got a clear image of how long the affair lasted. 2 years. The boss's wife was furious, and so was I. She wanted vengeance on them, and so did I. They slept together everywhere. Her house, my house, high-end hotels, work trips. It was disgusting to read all of it. They even emailed each other pictures. But we opted to disregard the photos because we didn't want to scare ourselves. We desired vengeance without engaging in an affair. We agreed that if they desired each other, they could have each other. We both hurled divorce papers at roughly the same moment. We were dead determined on it. Our husbands had no idea we knew, and we did our part. By the time our ducks were lined up, they were back at it. And this time, thanks to collaboration with the boss's wife, we knew exactly where and how they would be served. We knew which hotel they had booked for their weekend of pleasure. I personally went with the sheriff. I waited in the lobby while the sheriff set things up and summoned my wife to her room. She did, dressed in a bathrobe, and I have nothing to fear. She's terrified and frantically asking what I was doing there. It was a fair distance from our house, but not too far. The sheriff requested confirmation of her name and information. She confusedly responded in the affirmative, and was served. It was really nice to see the astonished look on her face, but I didn't want to emphasize it, so I walked away knowing the job was done. She refused to let me go, gripping my arm, drawing me back, and demanding to know what was going on. I told her you had an affair, and I am leaving you. She began yelling at me and pulled my arm hard. The sheriff had to step in and urge her to release me immediately. She did so, and began crying, telling me she could explain I had the incorrect notion, and it was my responsibility. I was getting angry, so I left quickly to get home. My wife informed her boss, and he panicked. According to what I was told, he rushed home, just to be served there. We didn't give them enough time to collect their thoughts. We caught them off guard, just like they did with us. My divorce will be complete in a few months. Hers might be taking a little longer. Both my wife and her boss have been fighting us about the divorces. Neither wants a divorce. The reasons I've heard are that they never intended to leave their wives. It was completely sexual, nothing else. People had terrible affairs and still end up with a beautiful marriage. They made a mistake and would like to have the opportunity to correct it. I asked my wife what she felt the conclusion of everything was. She claimed she was going with the flow but acted utterly out of character. She is not the same person anymore. I called her an idiot. People around me are calling me horrible for not giving my wife a second chance. My children are aware of what is going on, in an age-appropriate manner, and fully support me. But I'd prefer to stay together. Willpower is fading. Coupled with the fact that we still live in the same house and my wife is attending therapy and reading the book one purchased, it's becoming increasingly difficult for me to stick to my guns. She claims she is sorry and will do whatever it takes. I just tell her she's sorry she was caught, and that's all I need to know. She's referred to me as a bitter, resentful person who can't see past the negative. She later apologized, but I know she still feels this way. My wife despises the fact that I and the boss's wife continue to communicate. She believes I will have a revenge affair with her boss's wife, which is why I will not give us another chance. She frequently asked me not to start contact with her boss's wife, as she had with her boss. I told her she was nuts. We did not do anything incorrect. Why should I respect your thoughts right now? See? I suppose I'm finished. I have no respect for her. She still refuses to give up, and is actively attempting to communicate with me about her thoughts and processes surrounding the affair. I consider them excuses, therefore I don't entertain her. She wants me to do treatment with her. I read several places where the therapist blames the victim, and I was like, hell no, she wants me to read infidelity literature beside her. What's the point of going through a divorce anyway? She wants to be intimate. I told her she wasn't going to influence me with sex. She claims it is not manipulation, and that she simply wants to show me how much she loves me. I corrected, saying, love me now, you mean? People around me are frustrated with me, including my mother, since they believe that people make mistakes, and my wife realizes through her faults that she genuinely loves me. I promised everyone that I would never be someone's fallback plan. I feel terrible for treating her the way I do. I still adore her, despite the hatred. Am I being unkind to her? She's working extremely hard, but I don't care. Should I reconsider our divorce? People say I'm moving too fast and will regret it. Is this true? I'm not sure what is genuine and what isn't. Before we get into the latest updates on this topic, I can confidently say that your wife is terrible, and I agree that a divorce is absolutely in order. A mistake is spelling a word incorrectly or calling John Jim. Having a 2-year emotional and physical affair in your home is pure treachery. She did not make a mistake, she deceived you. And that is how I would respond to anyone who claims she made a mistake. She didn't consider you for the past 2 years. Your relationship with her at the time was a deception because you were never given the choice to stay or go as a result of her actions. Stick to your firearms. This was not a one-time thing. She lied to you every day by keeping her affair a secret. She lied to your face even though you knew the truth. The time and effort she put in for the boss should have been directed toward you. It sounds like she has taken you for granted all these years. The marriage, you knew, has ended. Divorce her and then decide whether or not to rekindle your relationship with her. Okay, time for update 1. First and foremost, my wife and I are currently in a terrific place. It's not because we're reconciling. No, I'm still divorcing her. The latest update I posted was removed by the auto mod. Discussed in great detail our predicament. In summary, my wife is still asking for another chance and will do whatever it takes to obtain it. I won't give it to her, because her affair lasted far too long for me to get over. If it had been a one-night stand, the story would have been very different. No, 2 years is simply a slap in the face. I've been to a couple therapy sessions with her, because I'm not a monster and still adore her. One session was excellent and helped me see that my wife is truly sorry. She has not been flawless in dealing with the consequences of her affair. She has, nevertheless, made a significant effort. The second session was a shambles of her resentment against me for constantly contacting the boss's wife and her fear of a vengeance affair. It was the most angry I'd ever been during this whole ordeal, and we argued a lot later because I refused to do what she wanted, which was no contact with the boss's wife. That was fixed when I told her that there would be no retaliation. I know I don't owe her anything, but she is still my wife until we divorce, and I want to keep my promises. I've been going to a couple more sessions with her to check how she's progressing. Yes, this therapist provides both solo and marriage therapy. No, I'm not coming to these sessions because I genuinely want to save our marriage. I want to see my wife's improvement and will participate if necessary. After the divorce, I will gracefully step away. The boss's wife is still leaving him. Her husband is still battling with her over the divorce. She is as stubborn as I am, and I will admit that we do confide in each other on bad days. I still don't see any affair happening. We're just friendly with each other. She is a tough and independent woman who will not tolerate bullshit from anyone. My children are fine. They understand that just because we are divorcing does not mean we love them any less. They do not desire a divorce, but understand why it is important for us in an age-appropriate way. My wife no longer works at the advertising company. She works elsewhere. She quit soon after I served her. She has had absolutely no communication with her previous boss. According to her, she sought counsel on forums to save her marriage and followed that advice. I've been reading a lot here, and at first I didn't understand why people stayed with adulterers, but after watching my wife work her buttocks out to be a better person, I can see the appeal. She is not a monster, she is flawed and has made terrible decisions, which she is learning to overcome. She has given me every possible opportunity to be granted another chance. I'm not sure if I have it. The closer divorce is to being finalized, the more at ease I feel. We recently had a lengthy talk about her request for a chance after divorce. Has she proposed a postnuptial agreement? I wasn't absolutely opposed to it, but it would be a long path for her to walk before I could even contemplate it. She appears willing, but I don't understand how that would help either of us. To be honest, a large part of me desires this divorce for a transient sense of fairness. It's the only way I can receive justice without lowering myself to the level of an adulteress. My mother and I reconciled after I revealed more about my wife's affair, but now she's furious with my wife after discovering the details. I'm not sure how to navigate that one. Stay strong, op. She'll either become more lovey-dovey or insane. Just think about all the money she spent cheating, all the time she stole from your family, and all the love she withheld from you. That ruined your self-esteem. You will never get that back. Not once in 2 years did she consider putting her children, or you first. The only reason she is making progress is because she was caught. I can't wait for you to be rid of that toxic waste of a human. Okay, enough of that. Update Rant 2 Revenge Affair. As many of you know, my wife is concerned about a revenge affair. The simple answer is that I still communicate with and see the other woman she deceived. My wife is highly insecure in comparison to OBS. That's how it is spelled. OBS is younger, a model, incredibly attractive, and runs a profitable business. It makes my wife fearful that I would succumb to temptation and cheat on her as retaliation. I still can't believe she had the guts to give me the two wrongs don't make a right lecture. Of course she is not wrong, and I have no intention of ever following through. But her hypocrisy enrages me. Every time I go to see OBs, like yesterday, she becomes incredibly unhappy, Or I don't know how many times she has thrown herself at me to make sure I don't cheat on her. I reject her attempts, which simply makes matters worse. It really astounds me that cheaters are so selfish, just concerned with themselves and their agony, while the betrayed must trudge on and try to pick up the pieces. Another factor is that our children continue to see their own children. I never go to OBS without my kids, but my wife still thinks I'm as heartless as she was and will take any opportunity to bang the woman. Is still living in their vacation home, begging OBS to take him back. I won't lie, seeing him endure the repercussions gives me a lot of satisfaction. He hasn't threatened me since I have so much power over him. He must live with the reality that I am still in contact with his wife. He can visit his children whenever he wants. But he doesn't want to see me, so he waits until I'm not around before visiting. I pity the guy. My wife has been really sorry. She showered me with adoration, which I shrugged aside. I am not in a good position. We have a therapy session today, and I feel compelled to express all of the grief and hurt I've experienced as a result of her actions. The rage I am experiencing is becoming unbearable. Go for it. You should unload in treatment. Why should she worry if you're organizing a date if you're about to get divorced? She lost it when she cheated. How selfish to demand your allegiance. She need intervention-level assistance for her problems. I mean, she may feel awful because she wants to restore the relationship, but I don't see it happening right now. Now on to update 3. It eventually dawned on me. I felt I had squandered all these years on a worthless lady, but she provided me with wonderful children and memories. These are the things I will never forget and appreciate as a man. But I've realized that I can and will do better than her. I've had a deluge of individuals offer me advice on how to handle this scenario. I finally realized that I deserve better than her. She screwed me over. Put me down. It made me feel inferior to when another man showed her attention. She literally spent her energy in another guy. I can't believe I'm only now accepting that I'm over her. Now. She now does whatever it takes to keep me. She is now pouring her energy in us. She now wants me to be happy, despite the fact that she previously did not care. She now wants to be this daring person in sex with me. The sex we had was never mind-blowing, but I enjoyed it. Now I realize how much I have lost out on. Her text with tells me only the tip of the iceberg of how graphic their trysts were. She wants to show me how much she loves me now, despite the fact that she has previously been pretty lazy. Lazy sex speaks volumes to me. Now she gives me room and is happy and supportive of everything I do. Previously, it was all about paying her attention while also providing for her needs. Now she respects my boundaries and goes above and beyond to expand them. She now sees me as the king. The first wish she saw me as previously, but I had to smash her off her pedestal first. She is now the ideal woman, but I believe this is only temporary. Now she's absolutely open with me about everything. She is also brutally honest, even if it means upsetting me or embarrassing herself. I've never seen a woman with a constant expression of humiliation on her face before. She wishes the affair never happened. I can see how hard she kicks herself every day. I can see the sadness on her face when I'm not interested in anything she says. She appears miserable, especially when she attempts to hide it. It sometimes makes me despise myself, but I believe it is vital. Why can't I see this as anything positive? Why can't I criticize her for her acts right now? They show remorse, right? Many people have long-term relations and emerge stronger than before, correct? Why am I making decisions based on emotion rather than mature objectivity? Someone else will end up with the better and improved version of her, while I embark on another dubious relationship. Why not fight for this when everything appears to lead to something positive and a future? These are the lines I was given, and I only have one answer. I refuse to take rudeness. Perhaps I was willing to in the early stages of discovery, but I swiftly awoke. This is to respond to those who have PM'd me and routinely inquired about my status. I'm going to spend Christmas with my complete family, and then move on from my wife. I determined to quit listening to the rubbish I made up in my thoughts to maintain my wife's grip over me and abandon the thought of her totally. I won't date her or give us another shot. We are done for good. I like to say that my wife is not a villain, and that is correct. I want her to be happy too, but it will never be with me. She demonstrated that to me. I contacted OBS today and offered her supper after the holidays in exchange for her help while I was at my lowest point. She said she'd love to. I realize this doesn't happen often, but we really supported each other throughout everything, and I owe her gratitude. Before people start talking about how much I planned with OBS, let me clarify that I did not. My emotions have been so messed up these last few years that the thought of another lady never entered my head. And it's just dinner, unless we both want it. But as the divorce date approaches, I realize I do have options, and one of them has been right there. What about OM? I don't give a flying flip about him. I don't think I'll marry again, and I'll tell it to any woman. Although my divorce has been very simple, I am nonetheless losing a significant amount of money. Marriage seems like a fraud to me now, Sorry for sounding so cynical right now. I don't want to insult anyone, but I'm still jaded. I gave this woman my best years, and I'm beginning to realize how little I got back. You're seeing things clearly now. Your wife has always owed you her best effort. She was the one who expected you to make a lifetime commitment to her, to be devoted to her, to provide for and nurture her children. She decided you were the right man for the job, but she did not give you her best. She gave it to the instead. She lowered you and lifted him up. She paid no attention to you and focused entirely on him. She went out of her way to impress him in the bedroom while having a half-hearted sex life with you. She was demanding of you, yet generous to him. And now she wants to be the wife of the year? Please. This is regret. If her love, support, and desire for you were genuine, she would have given it to you rather than him. There may be some remorse, but you don't have a 2-year affair and give the more than your husband ever did, unless you truly don't appreciate, respect, or love your husband. It's simply not doable. But there's a good chance she'll learn from this and be a better partner to you in the future, never cheating again. And I'm sure it's infuriating for you to consider. But this does not make her worth remaining with. Her learning came at the expense of your emotions, which was never necessary. So go ahead and choose a woman who does not need to shatter your heart and ruin her own life before she learns to cherish you, who respects you and wishes you happiness and fulfillment. Alright. Update 4, officially divorced. Plus the date with ABS. It is over. My ex and I have officially separated for good. It happened nearly 3 weeks ago. For several days afterward, I wept as if I had lost a loved one. I believe it affected me particularly hard, that my marriage broke so spectacularly. I've never sobbed that hard since I initially discovered the affair. I raged a lot, too. Definitely one of my low points. Everything has been prepared for my ex. Partially on my part, for the sake of the kids. She moved out, and I'm looking to purchase her out of her share of the property. She currently resides in an apartment. She has suffered a significant setback, which has left her feeling depressed. She's still seeing the therapist. Still interested in reading and researching infidelity. I'm not sure exactly why. We had long discussions before and after the divorce. Minimal physical contact. I know I shouldn't entertain her right now, but she is still the mother of my children. And I want us to be excellent co-parents. I'm very logical about the problem, thanks in large part to this community and others. Of course, the tune is the same. She wants to reconcile, and I believe it would be too risky for me to put myself in that situation again. Unfortunately, I am not in the mood to give her that gift. This past weekend, I joined ABS to dinner with the sole goal of enjoying each other's company and speaking. We chatted about all kinds of stuff. Things became flirtatious between us, and I must admit I was hesitant to entertain the swiftly shifting tone. Well, I suppose I should say that the night concluded in a pretty passionate manner. Sorry for the TMI, it was definitely the most mind-blowing sex I've ever experienced. ABS is far superior to my ex in terms of generosity. I didn't mean for it to go that far. But ABS was willing, and I was too. I learned quite a few more tricks in the sack. It was the first time I'd ever had someone who was eager to satisfy me rather than vice versa. I guess I shouldn't call her ABS anymore because she's divorced, but I'll use it for the sake of privacy. To be honest, I doubt we will pursue our relationship any further. I believe the hormones and liquor got the better of us that night. She wants to, but I am undecided. I need to sort myself out emotionally, and I believe she needs as well. However, I feel quite wonderful. People may not like hearing this, but the sex I had with ABS significantly improved my remaining self-esteem issues. I felt desired, alive, and finally realized what I was missing out on. I'll never settle for robotic sex again. What was more rewarding was knowing that I wasn't cheating and hadn't compromised my morals.